He had changed his name, gave the balance of a $24,000 savings account to charity, abandoned his car and most of his possessions, burned all the cash in his wallet. And then he invented a new life for himself. This shows the major turnaround in the young man described in Into the Wild, a book written by John Krakauer. Although at times the story seems too extreme to be real, it tells the true biography of a man named Christopher Johnson McCandless. At the very beginning, there is an author's note in which Krakauer addresses the reader to inform them of McCandless's background. Then, as the actual story begins, it is written almost like a magazine article to anyone who is interested in the life and death of Christopher McCandless or the dangers of nature. Into the Wild tells of the reality of nature's dangerous qualities and the unfortunate consequence it held for Christopher Johnson McCandless. In April 1992, a young man from a well-to-do East Coast family hitchhiked to Alaska and walked alone into the wilderness, north of Mount McKinley. 4 months later, his decomposed body was found. Jim Gallion had driven 4 miles out of Fairbanks when he spotted the hitchhiker standing in the snow beside the road, shivering in the gray Alaska dawn. He didn't appear to be very old, 18, maybe 19, at most. A rifle protruded from the young man's backpack, but he looked friendly enough. Gallion steered his truck onto the shoulder and told the kid to climb in. The hitchhiker introduced himself as Alex. Alex, Gallion responded, fishing for a last name. Just Alex, the young man replied. He claimed to be 24 years old and said he was from South Dakota. He explained that he wanted to ride as far as the edge of Denali National Park, where he intended to live off the land for a few months. Alex's backpack looked as though it weighed only 25 pounds, an improbably light load for a stay of several months in the backcountry. He wasn't carrying anywhere near as much food and gear as you'd expect a guy to be carrying for that kind of trip, Gallion recalled. Gallion wondered whether he'd picked up one of those crackpots from the lower 48 who come north to live out ill-considered Jack London fantasies. Alaska has long been a magnet for dreamers and misfits, people who think the unsullied enormity of the last frontier will patch all the holes in their lives. It's an unforgiving place, however, that creates nothing for longing or hope. The more they talked, the less Alex struck Gallion as a nutcase. He was congenial and seemed well-educated. Still, Gallion was concerned. Alex admitted that the only food in his pack was a 10-pound bag of rice. His gear seemed exceedingly minimal for the harsh conditions of the interior. Alex's cheap leather hiking boots were neither waterproof nor well-insulated. His rifle was only .22 caliber. He had no axe, no bug dope, no snowshoes, no compass. The only navigational aid in his possession was a tattered state road map he scrunched at a gas station. A little later, Alex pulled out his map and pointed to a dashed red line that intersected the road near the coal mining town of Healy. It represented a road called the Stampede Trail. Seldom traveled, it isn't even marked on most road maps of Alaska. This, Alex announced, was where he wanted to go. Gallion tried repeatedly to dissuade him. I said the hunting wasn't easy where he was going, that he could go for days without killing any game. And that didn't work. I tried to scare him with bear stories, but he wouldn't give an inch. He had an answer for everything I threw at him. When Gallion asked whether his parents or a friend knew what he was up to, whether there was anyone who would sound the alarm if he got into trouble or was overdue, Alex answered that, no, nobody knew of his plans that. In fact, he hadn't spoken to his family in nearly 2 years. I'm absolutely positive, he assured Gallion. I won't run to anything I can't deal with on my own. There's just no talking the guy out of it, Galen remembers. He was determined. 3 hours out of Fairbanks, Galen turned off the highway and steered down a snow-packed side road. However, the road rapidly deteriorated. Washed out and overgrown, it turned into a rough, unmaintained track. 10 miles from the highway, worried that he'd get stuck if he drove farther, Galen stopped his rig on the crest of a lowrise. Alex insisted on giving Galen his watch, his comb, and what he said was all his money. 85 cents in loose change. I don't want your money, Galen protested, and I already have a watch. If you don't take it, I'm going to throw it away, Alex cheerfully retorted. I don't want to know what time it is. I don't want to know what day it is or where I am. None of that matters. Alex pulled the camera from his backpack and asked Galen to snap a picture of him, shouldering his rifle at the trailhead. Then, smiling broadly, he disappeared down the snow-covered track. The date was Tuesday, April 28, 1992. Galen turned the truck around and continued toward Anchorage. Galen briefly considered stopping and telling the authorities about Alex, and thought better of it. I figured he'd be okay, he explained. I thought he'd probably get hungry pretty quick and just walk out to the highway. That's what any normal person would do. Fail.
Could have been easier on you. I could have been all you held on to. I know I wasn't fair. I tried my best to care about you. I know I could have been a better man. But always had to have the upper hand. I'm struggling to see the better side of me, but I can't. Your jabs and taunts, you're pointing out my every fault, and you wonder why I walked away. When you tell me I'm a wreck, you say that I'm a mess. How could you expect anything less? Strong to me, then cried how strong you alone. I told you when you asked, I knew this wouldn't last. At least I could be honest about that. And now you're telling everyone I only did you wrong. I guess you never knew me at all. Remember on my 21st birthday, you took me where we went on our first date. We stayed till closing time after 4 glasses of wine. You stayed with a pointless argument. You said that I forgot to compliment the dress you wore that night. I've seen 1,000 times, but I think we just want different things. I want space, you want a diamond ring. Whatever made you think we were meant to be. When you tell me I'm a wreck, you say that I'm a mess. How could you expect